Higher self connection. All right, I'm pretty sure many of you may have heard the term higher self thrown about the metaphysical and spiritual community in the past years, and you might not be familiar with it or would like to just know what it means. And basically, I'll get right to the point. Your higher self is your truest self. It's your source self. It is source who has individuated itself into you, and it is the part of you that completely remembers that it is source. It is the part of you that still has that super strong connection to unconditional love, that is all about expressing unconditional love and expressing the God in you, the divinity in you. It is basically, like I said, source individuated into you as the unique aspect of yourself, and it is the part that is connected to unconditional love. Now, there is another thing I'm going to go over here first while we first introduce you to the higher self, and this is the three selves, okay? Now, the three selves is an interesting concept because it basically explains all aspects that has been created for this game here that we're playing here on Earth as your character or as your soul or your higher self. And so the three selves consist of the higher self, the ego self, and then we have this soul self, which is what we just simply call the soul. Now, the soul is basically the higher self and the ego self kind of like merged in between, kind of like both of them mixed together, okay? Now, the higher self, like we said, is the part that is unconditional love, is all focused on thriving, okay? You could say this is the light and the darkness, all right? Or the map or the guidance system throughout the game of life, okay? And the ego self is the fear-based and the fear-focused, the survival-focused part, or the survival self, the survival-focused self. And we could also call this the darkness and the light. Or the character, or what we like to call the anchor that holds you into the game. It's the part that makes the game feel real, the ego self. It's what immerses you into the game of life, okay? Now, the soul is what we call the game player, all right? The soul is the observer of both the higher self of the map and the ego self of the anchor, and it's influenced by both sides, okay? So this is the part of you that gains experience from the game. This is the part of you that makes decisions like, okay, so am I going to follow my higher self today, or am I going to follow my ego self today? Will I follow the thrival-focused and love-based higher self to get throughout this experience that I'm having right now, or am I going to listen to the fearful-focused and survival-focused ego self, or the character that I am, or the human part of me that keeps me into the game for this experience in my life today? And so this is what we, like said, we call the three selves: the higher self, the soul, and the ego self. Now, it is very important to remember that while most of us kind of identify ourselves as the soul, because we're a blend of both, it is very important to remember that at the core of everything, you are your higher self. That is your truest nature. That is who you truly are, is your higher self. And so this is when people talk to you and say, yeah, I know the real you, or I'm hearing you speak from your heart, or like this was his truest self, is that higher self they're talking about, the part that acts from love, okay? And so when people say this isn't you, and we know this isn't you, they're talking about your ego self. This is usually what people will say to you: oh, that wasn't you, man. I know you're better than this. They're talking about your ego self when you act out of fear, or if you act out of survival-focused mentality. And so the other thing, too, is like you may have heard people say your soul instead of saying or just identifying you as the soul. Like, oh, yeah, you are. They can't even say that. You know, you have to say, oh, yeah, your soul will be blessed. You know, you can't even say soul. You don't say soul is this. You don't say that. You don't talk to people and say that they are soul. Nothing like that. And that's because the soul is basically what you could call like a container in a way. It is a thing that you use that blends both the higher self and the ego self. It's a container that holds both sides, all right? It's what makes this game the game. It's what holds it in together. But again, just remember that your truest nature is your higher self. It is the love-based. It is the unconditional love at its core. It is the light that is allowing the darkness to exist. And so that's just important to get across. And that's what we're going to help you connect with in this section of the program, is connecting with your higher self, your truest nature. And so to give you a little bit more information, your higher self basically, like I said, it encourages thriving, okay, by trusting your joy. That is its main way of giving you a thriving life, is giving you, here's your joy, now follow it. That's basically what it is all about, is encouraging you to thrive by trusting your joy. And so by being thrival focused, the higher self actually knows that the experience throughout the game is part of the excitement. Thus, it encourages you to embrace all experiences and to embrace them as good. It's seeing things through the eyes of unconditional love and source. So it's saying things, hey, go live life, go take that risk and embrace it and live and have fun. Life is an adventure. That's what the higher self is basically all about. All right. And to give you some contrast, the ego self is basically encouraging surviving by protecting you from pain. So being survival focused, the ego self knows that experience can actually be painful, and so it closes itself to new experiences and it actually fears them because it doesn't want to, like I said, die. It feels like pain will kill itself, and which is not necessarily true, and most of the time it's not true. But this is how the ego self works. It works from a survival mentality, a survival-focused thought process, a survival-focused mentality. And this isn't to say that your ego self is wrong or that it's bad for doing this. It's actually holding a very important role, because we have, in our experience in the game, we have certain beliefs that could cause death if we were to go through certain conditions. Like, we want to enjoy our lives a lot, and if we are to go and do things that are completely against our beliefs, like hardcore, like, taking a gun and maybe shooting yourself in the head, this actually could kill you. And so this is the importance of the ego self, and its role is to help you find some balance, is to say, hey, if you want to continue playing the game, this is why I'm here telling you don't do this, so you can actually stay in your character and you can continue to play from where you left off, so you can actually enjoy the game more. So it does hold a very important role. It's there to just give us an idea of, hey, this is where your beliefs are at the moment, and I have a lot of fear with this, and maybe we should work on letting go some of this fear or changing these beliefs before we take a certain action that could potentially destroy the whole game for us, or that could potentially kill us. But what's happened is so many people have gotten so ego-focused that they actually start to fear everything, and they don't live at all. They get stuck in the idea that, oh, this small thing is going to kill me, or this thing will kill me, and this thing is going to kill me. We get so caught up into just listening to our ego self because we haven't had practice of listening to our higher self, that everything then starts to become fear-based. We start to become scared of everything. We start to get anxious, and we create things like anxiety or post-traumatic stress disorder, stuff like this. This is what happens when we follow our ego too much and we don't listen to our higher self. And when we do that and we continue to listen to all the fear and the fearful ideas, and it gets so bad, then our entire reality starts to reflect, and all the echoes in our life start to come up that are basically supporting a fear, and then we start creating a life that is not really a life. It is starting to be a life of dying, a life of death, because what we do is everything becomes fear-based, and so we are no longer living. So everything starts supporting the idea of no longer living, or taking away life experiences. And so the goal then becomes to start shifting that and to start actually listening to the higher self more rather than the ego self, as the higher self encourages thriving and living life and joy. And when you start feeling more of that and feeling more joy all the time and radiating that and emanating that, then what happens is your reality starts to support you. It starts to support more joy, and it starts to support more living and having fun and thriving and living life and having great life experiences. And so a good reflection and a good support system of living life and having great life experiences would be to have good health and to actually continue to live and to having a functional body that would actually allow you to live. And so you won't be creating death like ego will create over a long period of time eventually, if we continue to focus on fearful thoughts and fearful things. But instead we'll actually create a support system of life. You'll start to be making your body actually become more healthier, and you'll have more support systems around you and reflections that support you living and having great more experiences. So basically, in a way, following your joy and following the higher self's messages actually can make you live forever if you want to talk about it in theory wise. So it's just all about expanding life and giving you and supporting what you are emanating. And so all the time you're actually getting messages from your higher self, okay? And they're constantly being sent. But what happens is if you allow your ego to protect yourself from experiencing life and embracing life as all positive and good with excitement and joy, you won't hear or see the messages, as you're basically blocking yourself from them. You're shielding yourself from these messages because you're scared to embrace what life is here to bring you, because you're scared of the pain that it may bring you. And so that's the importance of actually connecting more with your higher self and talking with it and communicating with it. And actually, you can start by actually looking at the messages your higher self are sending you, and that can be a way you can start to communicate with it. When you can get into that relationship with your higher self, what happens is you start to actually live a thriving life, because you start to embrace life for what it actually is. It's for experience. It's for fun. It's for excitement. That's why we all came here to play the game. And that's why we're all here when we do play games or watch movies or read books. It's because it's fun. It is our joy. And so some of the higher self messages, okay, this is where it can be tough for some people, because some people don't know how to actually decode the messages that are being sent to them, or they're not even like, because they're so shielded, they don't even see them. So I want to give you a little eye-opening here. Some of the messages, or the main way, okay, the most used form of communication that your higher self will use to send you messages is actually through symbolism, all right? So whatever this is through, whether it's language, written text, imagery, sound, whatever, your higher self will actually choose the form that you're least resistant to or more open to. So if you feel better with your higher self, if you're more open to listening to a message of divinity, a message of unconditional love through somebody writing you a letter, or having a certain experience, or seeing a picture, or hearing music played or something, that will be the way your higher self will send you that message. It uses the least resistant path so it can actually get through. And so basically, this is like I'm saying, your higher self speaks the universal language, okay? And the good news is the language is universally known by everything, and you're constantly actually seeing it. You may not be aware of it. And like I said, that language is symbolism. So it doesn't matter what it is. It can be an item in your room. It can be anything at all that you see is a symbol and a reflection of your truest self, your higher self. And if you just look for it, and you're looking for that message within anything, you will find it. And you will find what you need just by looking at anything that is around you, because it's always sending you messages through everything that you see. It's all the time showing you the reflections of how you're feeling inside and what you need to do to move forward. And actually, one of the least resistant forms people are open to is actually communication, which is verbal speaking, because we're so used to doing that on a daily basis with people. And that's the idea that we feel is most understood. Like, we communicate with people, so we would communicate through ourselves by actually talking with them. And so this is one reason why meditation, or using the higher self meditation, and we have this down below this video, Seiket guides you through a meditation to connecting with your higher self. This is one reason why that meditation is a good way to connect with your higher self, as this is actually one of the most least resisted paths of communication and hearing what your higher self has to say to you, is by actually connecting with it and talking with it. And so I want to give you a little bit more information of how symbolism works. And so symbolism works with how the user, or how you are seeing the symbol and how you're feeling about that symbol. So basically, to read your higher self's messages, you must get in tune with how you feel. So no matter what symbols mean in general, the meaning that is best for you is the meaning that feels right to you, okay? Your higher self understands that to help you grow, it must help you face your feelings. And to change your feelings, you must also change your focus. And so this is why it is helping you. This is why it sends you all these messages, is so you can get your focus on the things that you want. And so some people may have a perception on something or a symbol that feels something to them, and that will be what that message is to them. But you also have to remember you have your own perception of things, and that's what that message will be for you, is depending on how you feel, not how anybody else feels or what the collective may feel. Now, that could be what you actually are feeling because we're so used to following what the collective says, but still look deeper and feel what you feel regarding this symbol that you're seeing in front of you, or this message, as that will be the truest decoding or the truest meaning of that message for you. And so it's actually a really good example too, is like when you're looking at symbols, make sure that you read all of them, because sometimes we'll overlook things. So I got a picture here of a black cat, all right? And many people actually associate this symbol with the feeling of unluck or fear, okay? And that's true. It is very true for many people, but it doesn't have to be necessarily true for you. So like I said, it depends on what you're feeling. But that aside, let's say that this is true for you, that it's unluck or fear. But you also want to keep in mind what else is in the picture, okay? It's not just a black cat. It's a black cat that's reading, and it's sitting on a ledge. So reading could be a sign of like gaining knowledge, and while a ledge could be a sign of uneasiness. You know, if you're standing on a ledge or if you're sitting on a ledge, you could accidentally fall, and that could be some of the feeling that's coming through here, and that could be what the message could be. So this could be read as a fear of gaining knowledge, as the fear is this black cat, okay? And the reading is the gaining knowledge, and then the ledge would mean you feel uneasy about it. So the whole message could be fear of gaining knowledge, and you feel uneasy about gaining knowledge, or the fear of gaining knowledge in general. And so that's just an idea of how you could read the symbol or the message that your higher self is sending you. And so one last other way that your higher self will actually send you messages is through your dreams. And so I got a little picture here of a bee which is dreaming of flowers, okay? And in the picture it is smiling. And a couple meanings of flowers could be kindness or compassion. And so the message here could be saying that the bee is on track to bringing more of this to its life, and that it finds joy in this experience. So this is a reflection of how it's feeling, and it feels good. So this is the message from its higher self, is that it feels good with these things, that it is on track. It's just an affirmation. Your higher self will reflect to you all the time what you're feeling. Your higher self is also, your messages are through the echoes, okay? So that is also just another way of seeing this. It's your higher self talking to you by seeing the echoes in your reality. And so for most people, like I said, this right here, this symbol or this image of the bee smiling looking at the flowers is just basically saying that it enjoys this, and it's on track of bringing more joy into its life. But for some other people, they may see it as a different thing. It depends on their perception. So whatever their perception or feeling towards this image would be, then, or towards the dream that they may be having as well, is what the message is going to be for them. And then they have to work with that message and grow from it and learn from it and move on. And so just on a side note, a good way of finding some symbols for dreams, or some meanings of symbols that your higher self may be sending you, is to use a dream dictionary, because dreaming and real life, they're practically the same thing. Just one's more physical and one's not. We recommend like using dreammoods.com or dreamhawk.com. These are good online dream dictionaries that you can use to basically get a good feel for what these symbols your higher self is sending you mean. And so I hope this gives you an idea of what the higher self is, and maybe even a little bit more idea of what your ego self is and the soul is, as they're just as important to the entire experience that you're having, and just as important to understanding what the role of the higher self is for you. It's the part of you that's connected to unconditional love, and it's the part of you that is guiding you back to who you really are, to your truest identity, which, like I said, at its very core is source, is God, divinity, and unconditional love. And so I hope this helps, guys, and I will see you in the next video.